The snow fell in thick, silent flakes, blanketing the streets of Portsmouth, New Hampshire, as if the world had paused to catch its breath. Ellie Harper stood at the edge of the pier, her boots crunching against the frost, her heart pounding louder than the distant crash of waves. She wasn't supposed to be here. Not with Mara, not tonight, not ever. It was December 20th, and the town was alive with holiday chaos. Carolers harmonizing off-key, shop windows glowing with garlands, and families rushing to finish last-minute shopping. Ellie, 28, had always loved this time of year. The way it promised warmth despite the cold. The way it made strangers smile at each other. But this year, the holidays felt like a tightrope walk over a chasm of secrets. She zipped her navy peacoat higher, her auburn hair catching snowflakes as she glanced at her phone. "Meet me at the pier. 7 p.m. We need to talk." Mara's text had been brief, but it carried the weight of everything unsaid between them. Mara Nguyen, 30, was the kind of woman who could silence a room with a single look. Her dark curls framed a face that held both fire and gentleness, a contradiction that had drawn Ellie in from the moment they met 6 months ago at a local book club. Mara was a high school art teacher, her hands always smudged with charcoal, her laugh a melody that made Ellie's chest ache. But Mara was also cautious, guarded, her heart wrapped in layers of fear of judgment, of her traditional Vietnamese-American family, of a world that didn't always embrace love like theirs. Ellie shoved her phone into her pocket, her breath hitching as she spotted Mara approaching. The older woman's red scarf fluttered in the wind, and her brown eyes locked onto Ellie's with an intensity that felt like a promise and a warning all at once. "You came," Mara said, her voice low, almost lost in the wind. "Of course I did," Ellie replied, her words steadier than her heart. She wanted to reach out, to close the distance between them, but Mara's hands were stuffed deep in her coat pockets, a barrier Ellie couldn't cross. Not yet. They'd been dancing around this, whatever this was, for months. Stolen glances at book club, late-night texts that felt like confessions, coffee dates that lingered too long to be just friendly. Ellie, a freelance graphic designer with a penchant for diving headfirst into everything, had known she was falling for Mara by their third meeting. Mara, though, was a fortress. She'd grown up in a household where love was expected to fit a certain mold, and being a lesbian didn't fit. Coming out to her parents at 25 had been a quiet disaster. Tears, silence, and a lingering expectation that she'd fix herself. Ellie, whose own coming out had been met with hugs and unconditional support, couldn't fully grasp the weight Mara carried, but she felt it in every hesitation, every half-step back. "I can't keep doing this," Mara said now, her voice cracking like ice under pressure. She stood a foot away, but it felt like miles. "Ellie, I'm not ready for what you want." Ellie's stomach dropped. "What do I want?" she asked, her tone sharper than intended. "I just want you, Mara. Not some perfect version of you, not some timeline you think I'm demanding. Just you." Mara looked away, her gaze settling on the horizon where the ocean met the sky. "You make it sound so easy," she whispered. "But it's not. My family's coming for Christmas. They're staying at my place. My mom's already asking if I'm seeing someone, if I've moved on from you know." She gestured vaguely, as if her identity could be waved away. "If they find out about us, it'll be a mess. I can't do that to them. Or to you." Ellie wanted to argue, to say that love shouldn't be a battlefield, but she saw the fear in Mara's eyes, the kind that rooted deep, the kind that made you question everything. So instead, she stepped closer, her voice softening. "Then let's get through the holidays together. No labels, no pressure. Just us. We'll figure it out." Mara's lips parted, surprise flickering across her face. "You'd do that? Stay through all this?" Ellie nodded, her heart hammering. "I'm not going anywhere." The snow kept falling, and for the first time that night, Mara's hand reached for Ellie's. Their fingers intertwined, cold but sure, and Ellie felt a spark of hope ignite. Maybe this holiday season, amidst the chaos and expectations, they could carve out something real. The next few days were a whirlwind. Ellie threw herself into helping Mara prepare for her family's visit, a task that felt like stepping into a minefield. Mara's parents, Lin and Duk, were traditional, their values shaped by years of navigating a new country while clinging to the old. Mara's older brother, Min, was more open-minded but still treaded carefully around their parents. The Nguyen's were staying at Mara's small apartment, a cozy space filled with her artwork, vibrant paintings of seascapes and cityscapes that Ellie loved. But with her family arriving, Mara had hidden away anything too personal, including a sketch she'd drawn of Ellie, her face half-lit by candlelight. Ellie, meanwhile, lived in a rented loft across town, a chaotic space cluttered with design sketches and half-finished coffee mugs. She'd invited Mara over countless times, but Mara always hesitated, as if crossing that threshold would make their connection too real. Now, with the holidays looming, Ellie offered to stay at Mara's place to help host, a decision that felt both reckless and right. The first night of the Nguyen's visit was tense. Lin, a petite woman with sharp eyes, scrutinized every detail of Mara's apartment, her comments laced with subtle expectations. "This place is nice, Mara, but it's so empty. No pictures of family." Duk, quieter but no less observant, nodded in agreement. Min, a lanky 35-year-old with a tech job in Boston, tried to lighten the mood with jokes, but even he couldn't erase the undercurrent of pressure. Ellie played her part. Introduced as Mara's friend from book club, she helped cook dinner. Pho, Mara's family recipe, the broth simmering for hours, and kept the conversation light, asking Lin about her garden and Duk about his favorite fishing spots. But every time her eyes met Mara's, she felt the unspoken truth humming between them. It was exhilarating and terrifying, like standing on the edge of a cliff. That night, after the Nguyen's had gone to bed, Ellie and Mara sat on the couch, a blanket draped over their knees. The Christmas tree in the corner glowed softly, casting shadows on the walls. "You're good at this," Mara said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Making them like you." "I'm not trying to make them like me," Ellie said, turning to face her. "I'm trying to make this easier for you." Mara's eyes softened, and for a moment, Ellie thought she might lean in, might close the gap between them. But then Mara pulled back, her walls snapping back into place. "We need to be careful," she said. "This week it's going to be hard." Ellie nodded, swallowing her disappointment. "I know, but we're in this together. Okay?" Mara didn't reply, but her hand found Ellie's under the blanket, squeezing gently. It wasn't a promise, but it was enough for now. The next morning, the apartment smelled of cinnamon and coffee, a fragile attempt at holiday cheer. Ellie woke to the sound of Lin's voice drifting from the kitchen, sharp and insistent, questioning Mara about her plans for the future. Ellie lay on the pull-out couch, her temporary bed, and felt a pang of guilt for overhearing. She wasn't part of this family, not really, but being here felt like stepping into Mara's world, a world she both longed to understand and feared she'd disrupt. She pulled on a sweater and joined the Nguyen's at the breakfast table, where Mara was slicing oranges with a precision that betrayed her nerves. "Morning, Ellie," Mara said, her smile tight but warm. Lin glanced up, her expression unreadable, while Duk offered a nod. Min, scrolling through his phone, grinned. "You're up early for a guest. Mara's got you on her schedule already?" Ellie laughed, easing into her role as the charming friend. "I'm just here for the free food." The table chuckled, but Mara's eyes held a flicker of gratitude. It was a small moment, but it grounded Ellie, reminding her why she was here. To be Mara's anchor, even if no one else knew it. The day unfolded with holiday errands, buying extra decorations, picking up groceries for Christmas dinner, and navigating the crowded streets of Portsmouth. Ellie and Mara moved in sync, their banter light but laced with an undercurrent of intimacy. At the market, Mara brushed against Ellie's arm while reaching for a bag of cranberries, and the touch lingered, electric. Ellie caught Mara's gaze, and for a split second, the world narrowed to just the two of them. But then Lin called Mara over to inspect a turkey, and the moment shattered. That afternoon, while the Nguyen's napped, Ellie and Mara stole a moment in the apartment's tiny balcony, the air sharp with cold. Mara leaned against the railing, her breath clouding in the winter light. "I don't know how you do it," she said. You're so calm. Like none of this scares you. It does, Ellie admitted, her voice low. But I'm more scared of losing you than dealing with this. She gestured vaguely toward the apartment, toward the weight of Mara's family and their expectations. Mara's lips twitched, almost a smile. You're too good at this, Ellie Harper. Or maybe you're just worth it. Ellie shot back, her heart racing. She wanted to say more, to pull Mara into her arms and kiss her until the world made sense. But the sound of the balcony door sliding open stopped her. Min stepped out, oblivious to the tension. You two hiding from Mom's interrogation? Mara laughed, too quickly. Just getting some air. Min raised an eyebrow, his gaze flicking between them. Sure, air. He didn't push, but Ellie felt the weight of his curiosity. Min wasn't like his parents. He'd hinted at knowing Mara was queer, had even asked her once if she was seeing someone, but he wasn't bold enough to confront it head-on. Not yet. The rest of the day was a blur of holiday preparations. Ellie helped Mara string lights around the living room, their fingers brushing as they passed bulbs back and forth. Lin insisted on teaching Ellie how to make bánh chung, a Vietnamese sticky rice dish, and though Ellie fumbled with the banana leaves, Lin's stern demeanor softened slightly. You're not bad at this, she said, a rare compliment. Ellie caught Mara's eye across the kitchen, and the pride in her gaze made Ellie's chest tighten. That night, the tension escalated. At dinner, Lin brought up an old family friend, a man named Viet who'd recently moved back to Boston. He's single, Mara, Lin said, her tone pointed. A good man. You should meet him. Mara froze, her fork hovering over her plate. Ellie's stomach churned, but she kept her expression neutral, focusing on her food. Min jumped in, deflecting with a story about his job. But the damage was done. Mara barely spoke for the rest of the meal, and Ellie felt the distance between them grow. A silent chasm she didn't know how to bridge. After dinner, while the Nguyen's watched a holiday movie, Ellie followed Mara to the kitchen under the pretense of washing dishes. You okay? She asked, keeping her voice low. Mara scrubbed a plate with more force than necessary. I can't keep doing this, Ellie. Pretending I'm someone I'm not. But I don't know how to tell them. I don't know if I can. Ellie reached for her hand, stopping the frantic scrubbing. You don't have to do it alone. I'm here. Mara's eyes glistened, and for a moment, Ellie thought she might cry. Instead, Mara squeezed her hand, a silent thank you. They stood there, the hum of the movie in the background, the weight of unspoken truths pressing against them. The next day brought a new challenge, a holiday party at the community center where Mara taught art. Ellie had volunteered to help set up, partly to spend time with Mara, partly to escape the Nguyen's scrutiny. The center was a riot of color, paper snowflakes, twinkling lights, and Mara's students' artwork plastered on every wall. Ellie watched Mara move through the crowd, her laughter bright as she helped kids decorate ornaments. It was the most relaxed Ellie had seen her in days, and it made her heart ache with want. As the party wound down, a co-worker of Mara's, a woman named Claire, pulled Ellie aside. Claire was blunt, her eyes sharp with curiosity. You're not just Mara's friend, are you? She asked. Ellie's pulse spiked, but she kept her voice steady. We're close. Claire smirked. Close, huh? Look, I've known Mara for years. She's careful, but I see the way she looks at you. Just be patient with her. She's worth it. Ellie nodded, her throat tight. I know. That night, back at the apartment, Mara seemed lighter, her guard down after the party. They sat on the balcony again, sharing a mug of hot cocoa, the city sparkling below. Today was good, Mara said, her voice soft. Having you there, it made it better. Ellie's heart swelled. I'm not going anywhere, Mara. Holidays or not. Mara leaned her head against Ellie's shoulder, a small gesture that felt like a victory. The snow fell around them, and for the first time, Ellie believed they might make it through this, together. Christmas Eve arrived like a storm, all hustle and unspoken expectations. The apartment buzzed with the Nguyen's preparations, Lin directing the placement of every ornament, Duck quietly carving a roast, Min sneaking cookies from a tray. Ellie felt like an outsider peering into a world she could only half understand. Her role as Mara's friend, both a shield and a cage. Yet every time Mara's eyes met hers, a quiet reassurance passed between them, a reminder of why she stayed. The day was relentless. Mara and Ellie ran last-minute errands, dodging crowded shops and icy sidewalks. At a small boutique, Ellie picked out a scarf for Mara, a deep green that matched her eyes, and slipped it into her bag as a surprise. Mara, distracted by her mother's endless calls about dinner plans, didn't notice. The weight of the gift felt like a secret Ellie carried, a tangible piece of her hope. Back at the apartment, the tension from the previous night lingered. Lynn's comments about Viet, the eligible family friend, resurfaced during lunch. "He's coming to the Christmas party tomorrow," Lynn said, her tone casual but pointed. "Mara, you'll talk to him, yes?" Mara's jaw tightened, and Ellie's heart sank. She wanted to scream, to tell Lynn the truth, that Mara wasn't interested in Viet, that Mara's heart was already spoken for, but she bit her tongue, her role as the supportive friend locking her words in place. Instead, Ellie threw herself into helping with dinner, chopping vegetables with a focus that bordered on obsessive. Mara worked beside her, their movements a quiet duet. When their hands brushed, Ellie felt a jolt, a reminder of the connection they were fighting to protect. "You don't have to do this," Mara murmured, her voice low so Lynn wouldn't hear. "You don't have to stay." "I want to," Ellie said firmly, meeting her gaze. "I'm not here for them. I'm here for you." Mara's lips parted, but before she could respond, Min called her over to help with the tree. Ellie watched her go, her heart a tangle of love and frustration. She knew Mara was trying, but every step forward felt like 2 steps back. That evening, the Nguyen's attended a church service, a tradition Mara had warned Ellie about. "It's not really my thing anymore," Mara had admitted the night before, her voice heavy, "but it's important to them." Ellie offered to stay behind, sensing Mara needed space, but Mara insisted she come. "It'll be easier with you there," she'd said, and Ellie couldn't say no. The church was a small stone building, its stained glass windows glowing in the twilight. Inside, the air was thick with incense and the hum of hymns. Ellie sat beside Mara, their shoulders brushing, and felt the weight of the moment. Mara's family on one side, their expectations heavy. Mara on the other, her hand trembling slightly in Ellie's. During a quiet moment, Mara leaned closer, whispering, "Thank you for this." Ellie squeezed her hand under the pew, a silent promise. After the service, the Nguyen's lingered to chat with friends, and Ellie and Mara slipped outside, the cold air a relief. They stood under a street lamp, snow swirling around them. "I feel like I'm lying to them," Mara said, her voice raw. "Every time they talk about Viet, about my future, it's like I'm betraying who I am." Ellie's chest ached. "You're not betraying anyone, Mara. You're just surviving. And when you're ready, you'll tell them. I'll be right there when you do." Mara's eyes searched Ellie's, and for a moment, Ellie thought she might kiss her. But then Lynn's voice called from the church steps, and the moment broke. "We should go," Mara said, her voice barely audible. Christmas morning dawned bright and cold, the apartment filled with the scent of pine and cinnamon. Ellie woke early, slipping the green scarf under the tree for Mara. The Nguyen's gathered for breakfast, and Ellie played her part, laughing at Min's jokes and complimenting Lynn's cooking. But her eyes kept finding Mara, who seemed quieter than usual, her smiles forced. The gift exchange was a blur of wrapping paper and polite thanks. When Mara found the scarf, her fingers lingered on the soft fabric, her eyes meeting Ellie's with a warmth that made Ellie's heart race. "It's beautiful," Mara said softly, and Ellie knew she wasn't just talking about the scarf. But the moment was short-lived. Lynn, watching closely, commented, "You're lucky to have such a thoughtful friend, Mara." The word friend landed like a stone, and Ellie saw Mara flinch. Min, sensing the tension, changed the subject, but the air felt heavier. That afternoon, the Christmas party loomed. Viet arrived, a charming man in his early 30s with a warm smile and easy confidence. Lynn practically glowed as she introduced him to Mara, her intentions clear. Ellie watched from across the room, her stomach twisting as Viet leaned in to talk to Mara, his hand brushing her arm. Mara was polite, but her eyes kept darting to Ellie, a silent plea. Ellie couldn't take it anymore. She excused herself to the balcony, her breath clouding in the cold. Moments later, Mara joined her, her face pale. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice breaking. "I don't want this, any of it. But I don't know how to stop it." Ellie turned to her, her voice steady despite the ache in her chest. "You don't have to do anything you don't want to, Mara. Not for them, not for anyone. You're enough, just as you are." Mara's eyes filled with tears, and this time, she didn't pull away. She stepped closer, her hand finding Ellie's, and for the first time, Ellie felt like they were on the same side of the fight. The Christmas party pulsed with laughter and clinking glasses, but for Ellie, the room felt like it was closing in. Viet's presence was a constant shadow, his easy charm a stark contrast to the storm brewing inside Mara. Ellie stood by the refreshment table, pretending to rearrange cookies, her eyes tracking Mara across the room. Mara was trapped in a conversation with Viet and Lynn, her smile tight, her hands fidgeting with the green scarf Ellie had given her. Ellie's heart ached. She wanted to march over, take Mara's hand, and pull her away from the expectations suffocating her. But she stayed rooted, her role as the supportive friend a chain she couldn't break. Min sidled up, holding a glass of eggnog. "You look like you're plotting a heist," he said, his tone teasing but his eyes sharp. Ellie forced a laugh. "Just making sure the cookies don't run out." Min studied her, then glanced at Mara. "She's lucky to have you, you know. Most people wouldn't stick around for all this." His words hung heavy, and Ellie wondered how much he suspected. Before she could respond, he clapped her shoulder and walked away, leaving her with a mix of relief and unease. As the night wore on, the party grew louder, the air thick with holiday cheer and unspoken truths. Ellie caught Mara's eye, and Mara excused herself from Viet, slipping through the crowd to join her. "Can we talk?" Mara whispered, her voice urgent. Ellie nodded, and they stepped into a quiet hallway, the noise of the party fading behind them. "I can't keep doing this," Mara said, her voice trembling. "Every time they push me toward Viet, it's like I'm disappearing. I don't want to be this version of myself anymore." Ellie's heart pounded. "Then don't. Be you, Mara. The real you. I'm right here, no matter what." Mara's eyes searched Ellie's, and for a moment, the world stilled. Then, in a rush of courage, Mara closed the distance, her lips brushing Ellie's in a kiss that was soft, desperate, and electric. Ellie froze, then melted into it, her hands finding Mara's waist. It was their first kiss, a quiet rebellion against the chaos around them, and it felt like coming home. They pulled apart, breathless, as footsteps approached. Min appeared, his expression unreadable. "Mom's looking for you, Mara," he said, his voice neutral but his eyes flickering with understanding. Mara nodded, her cheeks flushed, and squeezed Ellie's hand before heading back to the party. Ellie stayed in the hallway, her heart racing. That kiss had changed everything, but it also raised the stakes. Mara was teetering on the edge of a decision, and Ellie could only hope she'd choose herself. The next day, December 26th, was quieter, the post-Christmas lull settling over the apartment. Lynn and Duke planned a day trip to a nearby lighthouse, and Min tagged along, leaving Ellie and Mara alone for the first time in days. The apartment felt like a sanctuary, the silence a gift after the chaos. They sat on the couch, a blanket draped over them, the Christmas tree lights casting a soft glow. Mara was quiet, her fingers tracing patterns on Ellie's palm. "Last night," she started, then stopped, her voice thick. "I've never felt like that before, like I could just be." Ellie's heart swelled. "You don't have to hide, Mara. Not with me." Mara's eyes glistened. "I want to tell them, my parents, but I'm terrified. What if they shut me out again?" Ellie cupped Mara's face, her thumb brushing her cheek. "Whatever happens, you're not alone. We'll face it together." Mara leaned into her touch, and they kissed again, slower this time, the weight of the moment sinking in. It was a promise, fragile but real, and Ellie clung to it. That evening, when the Nguyen's returned, the air felt different. Lynn was quieter, her eyes lingering on Mara with a mix of suspicion and concern. At dinner, she brought up Viet again, her tone sharper. "He's a good match, Mara. You're not getting any younger." Mara's fork clattered against her plate. "Mom, stop," she said, her voice steady but raw. "I'm not interested in Viet. I'm seeing someone." The room went silent. Ellie's heart stopped, her eyes locked on Mara. Lynn's face hardened. "Who? That friend of yours?" She gestured toward Ellie, her tone dripping with disbelief. Mara took a deep breath, her hand finding Ellie's under the table. "Yes, Ellie, I love her." The words hung in the air, a confession and a challenge. Lynn's face paled. Duc looked down at his plate, and Min's eyes widened, a mix of shock and pride. Ellie squeezed Mara's hand, her heart soaring and breaking at once. Lynn stood, her chair scraping against the floor. "This isn't right, Mara. You know that." She stormed out of the room, Duc following silently. Min stayed, his gaze soft. "Give them time," he said quietly. "They'll come around." Mara nodded, tears streaming down her face. Ellie pulled her close, holding her as the weight of her truth settled. It wasn't the end, but it was a beginning, a painful, beautiful start. The silence after Mara's confession lingered like a bruise. The apartment, once warm with holiday lights, felt cold and hollow. Ellie held Mara's hand under the table, her thumb tracing circles on Mara's skin, a silent anchor as the weight of Lynn's rejection settled over them. Mara's tears had stopped, but her eyes were distant, staring at the untouched plates on the table. Min broke the silence, his voice gentle. "I'm proud of you, Mara. That took guts." He glanced at Ellie, a small nod of approval. "Both of you." Mara managed a weak smile. "Thanks, Min. But what now?" Ellie wanted to answer, to promise everything would be okay. But the truth was, she didn't know. Lynn and Duke's absence was a wall, and Mara's pain was a blade twisting in Ellie's chest. "We take it one step at a time," Ellie said, her voice steady despite the chaos in her heart. "You're not alone in this." That night, Mara barely spoke. She curled up on the couch, the green scarf draped over her shoulders, while Ellie cleaned the kitchen, giving her space. Min stayed, helping with dishes, his presence a quiet support. "They're not bad people," he said, scrubbing a pan. "They're just stuck. Give them time." Ellie nodded, but her mind was on Mara. When Min left to check on his parents, Ellie sat beside her, the Christmas tree lights casting soft shadows. "Talk to me," Ellie said softly. "What's going through your head?" Mara's voice was barely audible. "I thought I was ready for this, but it hurts more than I expected." Ellie pulled her close, Mara's head resting against her chest. "It's okay to hurt. You just did something huge. You were honest. That's not nothing." Mara's fingers curled into Ellie's sweater. "What if they never accept me? What if I lose them?" "You won't," Ellie said, though she wasn't sure. "And if they can't see how amazing you are, that's their loss. But I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." Mara looked up, her eyes searching Ellie's. "You really mean that, don't you?" "More than anything," Ellie said, and kissed her forehead, a promise sealed in the quiet. The next morning, the apartment was tense. Lynn and Duc were polite but distant, their conversations clipped. Mara threw herself into routine, making coffee, tidying the living room, as if movement could keep her fears at bay. Ellie watched, her heart aching, but she stayed close, helping where she could. When Lynn announced they were leaving early for Boston, Mara's face fell, but she nodded. "Okay," she said, her voice hollow. Ellie helped pack their bags, her movements automatic. As they loaded the car, Lynn pulled Mara aside, speaking in low, rapid Vietnamese. Ellie couldn't understand the words, but Mara's stiff posture told her enough. When Lynn walked away, Mara's eyes were red, but she held her head high. "They need time," Mara said later, as they sat on the balcony, the city quiet in the post-Christmas haze. Mom said she's disappointed, but she didn't say she hates me. That's something, right? Ellie nodded, her throat tight. It's a start. The rest of the day was theirs, a fragile gift. They walked through Portsmouth, the snow crunching under their boots, the air sharp with possibility. At a small cafe, they shared a slice of pie, their knees touching under the table. Mara laughed for the first time in days, and Ellie felt the world shift back into place. But the peace was short-lived. That evening, Mara got a text from Viet, asking to meet for coffee. Mom must have given him my number, Mara said, her voice flat. She showed Ellie the message, her hands shaking. He's nice, but I can't. Then don't, Ellie said, her voice firm. You don't owe him anything. Or your mom. Mara nodded, typing a polite but firm reply. As she hit send, she leaned into Ellie, her breath steadying. I'm done pretending, she said. For them, for anyone. Ellie's heart soared. I'm so proud of you. The next few days blurred together, a mix of quiet moments and lingering tension. Mara's parents called once, their conversation brief but civil. Min texted daily, checking in, his support a lifeline. Ellie and Mara spent their time rediscovering each other. Cooking together, watching old movies, stealing kisses when the world wasn't watching. Each moment felt like a victory, a step toward something real. On New Year's Eve, they attended a small gathering at the community center, surrounded by Mara's students and co-workers. Claire, the co-worker who'd guessed their connection, pulled them into a hug. You two are glowing, she said, her grin infectious. Mara blushed, but her hand stayed in Ellie's, unapologetic. As midnight approached, they slipped outside, the sky ablaze with stars. The countdown echoed from inside, but out here it was just them. This year, Mara said, her voice steady, I want to be brave. For me. For us. Ellie smiled, her heart full. You already are. At midnight, they kissed, the world erupting in cheers around them. It wasn't perfect, but it was theirs, a moment of courage, of love, of hope. The new year dawned with a fragile clarity, like sunlight breaking through a storm. Ellie woke in Mara's apartment, the pull-out couch creaking beneath her, Mara's green scarf draped over a chair. The memory of their New Year's kiss lingered, a spark that warmed Ellie even as the uncertainty of Mara's family loomed. They'd crossed a threshold, but the path ahead was still unsteady. Mara was already up, sketching at the kitchen table, her hands smudged with charcoal. Ellie watched her from the doorway, struck by the quiet intensity in her movements. Morning, Ellie said, her voice soft. Mara looked up, her smile shy but real. Morning, coffee's on. They sat together, the silence comfortable, the weight of the holidays easing slightly. Mara's parents were back in Boston, their absence both a relief and a wound. Min had texted last night, promising to talk to them, but Mara was cautious, her hope tempered by years of disappointment. I want to believe they'll come around, she said, stirring her coffee. But I'm not holding my breath. Ellie reached for her hand. You don't have to do this alone. Whatever happens, I'm here. Mara's eyes softened, and she squeezed Ellie's hand. I know. That's what keeps me going. The day unfolded slowly, a rare moment of calm. They walked to the pier where they'd first confronted their feelings, the snow now a soft blanket over the town. Mara talked about her art, her dreams of opening a gallery, her fear of being seen. Ellie listened, her heart swelling with every word, every vulnerability Mara shared. I want to see all of you, Ellie said, her voice steady. Every piece, even the messy ones. Mara laughed, a sound that felt like sunlight. You're gonna regret saying that. Never, Ellie said, and meant it. But the calm was fleeting. That afternoon, Mara got a call from Lynn. Ellie watched her pace the apartment, her voice low and strained as she spoke in Vietnamese. When she hung up, her face was pale. Mom wants to talk. In person. They're coming back tomorrow. Ellie's stomach nodded. What does she want to talk about? Mara shook her head. She didn't say, but she sounded different. Not angry, just serious. Ellie pulled her into a hug, feeling Mara's heartbeat against her own. Whatever it is, we'll face it together. The next day, the apartment was a tangle of nerves. Mara cleaned obsessively, rearranging books, wiping counters, as if order could shield her from what was coming. Ellie helped, her presence a quiet reassurance. When Lin and Duke arrived, the air was thick with tension. Min was there too, his presence a buffer, but even he seemed on edge. Lin sat on the couch, her hands folded tightly. Mara, she started, her voice measured. We've been talking. Your father and I, we don't understand this. Your choice. The word stung and Ellie saw Mara flinch. But you're our daughter. We don't want to lose you. Mara's voice was steady, though her hands trembled. It's not a choice, Mom. It's who I am. I love Ellie. I'm not going to hide that anymore. Lin's eyes flickered to Ellie, assessing, then back to Mara. This is hard for us. Our traditions, our community, it's not what we expected. But we're trying. Duke spoke for the first time, his voice gruff. We want you to be happy, Mara, but this will take time. Mara's eyes filled with tears, but she nodded. I know. Thank you for trying. Ellie felt a weight lift, though it wasn't gone entirely. It was a start, a crack in the wall, and she squeezed Mara's hand, silently cheering her on. Min stepped in, suggesting they all go for a walk, a chance to ease the tension. As they strolled through Portsmouth, the conversation was halting but civil, a fragile bridge being built. That night, alone again, Mara and Ellie sat on the balcony, the stars bright above. I didn't expect that, Mara said, her voice soft. Not acceptance exactly, but something close. Ellie smiled. It's a step. And you were incredible. Mara leaned into her, her head on Ellie's shoulder. I couldn't have done it without you. They stayed like that, wrapped in each other, the cold air no match for the warmth between them. The holidays had been a battle, but they'd come through it. Together. The next few days were a mix of healing and discovery. Mara's parents called regularly, their conversations short but less strained. Min became their biggest ally, sharing stories of his own struggles with their parents' expectations. Ellie and Mara spent their time exploring Portsmouth, visiting bookstores, sketching together, building a life that felt like theirs. On the last day of the holidays, they stood at the pier again, the ocean stretching before them. Mara turned to Ellie, her eyes bright. I want this, she said. Us. For real. No more hiding. Ellie's heart soared. Good. Because I'm all in. They kissed, the world fading away, and Ellie knew. This was her forever, found in Mara's arms. The holidays were fading, but their weight lingered in the quiet moments. Ellie and Mara stood at a crossroads, their love a fragile flame now burning brighter. The pier, where they'd faced their fears, had become their sanctuary, a place where the world's noise couldn't touch them. Snow dusted their coats as they leaned against the railing, the ocean whispering secrets below. Mara's hand was warm in Ellie's, her grip steady. I keep replaying yesterday, she said, her voice soft but sure, telling them, it was terrifying, but I feel lighter, like I can breathe. Ellie smiled, her heart swelling. You were so brave. I'm so proud of you. Mara's eyes sparkled, reflecting the harbor lights. I'm starting to believe I can do this. Be me. With you. They walked back to the apartment, their steps in sync, the cold air sharp but kind. Inside, Mara's artwork lined the walls again, no longer hidden. Ellie traced a finger over a sketch of herself, drawn in soft charcoal lines. You see me, she said, her voice catching. Really see me. Mara stepped closer, her breath warm against Ellie's cheek. Always have. Their kiss was slow, deliberate, a promise sealed in the quiet of the night. Ellie felt the world shift, the future opening before them. They weren't just surviving anymore, they were building something real. The next day brought a new challenge. Mara's co-worker Claire invited them to a small art exhibit at the community center, a showcase of local talent. Mara's paintings were featured, vibrant seascapes that captured the soul of Portsmouth. Ellie watched her move through the crowd, her confidence growing with every compliment. For the first time, Mara didn't shy away from introducing Ellie as her girlfriend, the word rolling off her tongue with quiet pride. Claire pulled Ellie aside, her grin wide. "She's different with you. Happier. Don't let her go." "I won't," Ellie said, her voice firm. She meant it with every fiber of her being. But the exhibit wasn't without tension. A few of Mara's older colleagues, friends of her parents, raised eyebrows at the word girlfriend. Whispers followed, and Ellie saw Mara's shoulders stiffen. She squeezed Mara's hand, a silent reminder. "You're not alone." Mara relaxed, her smile returning, and they faced the crowd together, unapologetic. That evening, back at the apartment, Mara got a call from Min. Their parents wanted to meet again, this time in Boston. "They want to talk more," Min said over speakerphone. "No yelling, I promise. Just a conversation." Mara's eyes met Ellie's, a mix of hope and fear. "Should I go?" she asked after hanging up. Ellie nodded. "You've started this. You're strong enough to keep going. And I'll come with you if you want." Mara's relief was palpable. "I want." The drive to Boston was quiet, the winter landscape blurring past. Ellie drove, her hand resting on Mara's knee, a steady anchor. Mara fidgeted with her scarf, the green one Ellie had given her, her nerves betraying her calm facade. "What if they've changed their minds?" she asked, her voice small. "What if they want me to choose?" "Then you choose yourself," Ellie said, her voice fierce. "And I'll be right there, no matter what." The Nguyen's home was a modest two-story in a quiet neighborhood, filled with family photos and the scent of jasmine. Lin greeted them stiffly, Duk offering a nod. Min was there, his presence a buffer. They sat in the living room, the air heavy with expectation. Lin spoke first, her voice measured. "Mara, we've been talking. This your life, it's not what we planned. But we see you're happy. That matters." Mara's breath hitched. "I am happy. With Ellie. I just want you to see me for who I am." Duk cleared his throat. "It's not easy. Our community, our traditions, they're different. But you're our daughter. We're trying." Ellie felt Mara's hand tremble in hers, and she squeezed it, her heart pounding. It wasn't full acceptance, but it was a door cracking open, a chance for something more. The conversation was halting, filled with awkward pauses and careful words. Lin asked about Ellie's work, her family, her intentions. A test, but one Ellie met with honesty. Duk listened, his silence heavy but not hostile. Min chimed in with stories of Mara as a kid, lightening the mood. By the end, there were no grand declarations, but there was progress. A fragile bridge between Mara and her parents. Back in Portsmouth, Mara was quiet, processing. They sat on the balcony, the city sparkling below. "I didn't expect them to try," Mara said, her voice soft. "It's not perfect, but it's something." Ellie pulled her close. "It's everything. You're everything." Mara smiled, her eyes bright with tears. "I love you, Ellie." The words hit Ellie like a wave, stealing her breath. "I love you too," she said, and kissed her, the world falling away. The confession of love hung between Ellie and Mara like a star, bright and unshakable. Back in Portsmouth, the apartment felt different, warmer, more theirs. Mara's sketches were scattered across the table, and Ellie's coffee mugs cluttered the counter, a messy testament to their shared space. The holidays were nearly over, but their story was just beginning. They spent the next day wrapped in each other, the world outside fading. Mara painted while Ellie worked on a logo design, their silence comfortable, broken only by soft laughter and stolen glances. When Mara smudged paint on Ellie's cheek, Ellie retaliated with a playful swipe, and soon they were laughing, tangled on the couch, paint-streaked and happy. But reality crept in. Mara's parents called, their tone cautious but not cold. Lin asked about Mara's art exhibit, a small olive branch. Duk mentioned a family dinner in the spring, an invitation that included Ellie, a first. Mara hung up, her eyes wide. "They're really trying," she said, her voice a mix of wonder and disbelief. Ellie grinned. "Told you they'd come around." Mara swatted her arm, but her smile was radiant. Don't get cocky, Harper. The lightness carried them through the day. They walked to a local bookstore, browsing shelves and sharing favorite passages. Mara slipped a poetry book into Ellie's hands, her fingers lingering. "Read this later," she said, her voice soft. Ellie nodded, her heart full. That evening, they cooked together, a simple pasta dish that felt like a celebration. Mara opened up about her childhood, her dreams of being an artist, the years she spent hiding who she was. Ellie listened, her heart aching and soaring. "You're not hiding anymore," she said, brushing a curl from Mara's face. "You're shining." Mara's eyes glistened. "Because of you." They kissed, slow and deep, the world narrowing to the warmth of their connection. Ellie felt like she could live in this moment forever, but a small voice reminded her. Forever was a promise, not a guarantee. The next day brought a new challenge. Mara's principal emailed, asking her to lead a workshop at the community center. It was an opportunity, but it meant facing colleagues who'd whispered at the exhibit. Mara hesitated, her confidence wavering. "What if they judge me?" she asked, her voice small. Ellie took her hands. "Then let them. You're an incredible artist, an incredible person. They don't get to dim that." Mara nodded, her resolve hardening. "Will you come with me?" "Always," Ellie said, and meant it. The workshop was a success. Mara taught a group of teens to paint seascapes, her passion infectious. Ellie helped set up, her pride in Mara growing with every smile, every confident word. Claire was there, cheering Mara on, and even the skeptical colleagues seemed to soften, drawn in by Mara's talent. Afterward, they celebrated at a diner, sharing fries and milkshakes. Mara was glowing, her fears quieted for now. "I feel like I can do anything with you here," she said, her hand finding Ellie's across the table. Ellie's heart raced. "Good, because I'm not going anywhere." But doubt crept in that night. As they lay in bed, Mara's head on Ellie's chest, Ellie wondered if she was enough. Mara's journey was far from over. Her family's acceptance was tentative, her community still a minefield. Could Ellie be the anchor Mara needed without losing herself? The thought lingered as the holidays ended. Mara's parents invited them to Boston again, a small gesture of inclusion. Ellie saw the hope in Mara's eyes and pushed her doubts aside. They'd face this together, one step at a time. On the last day of their holiday break, they returned to the pier, the place where it all began. The snow had stopped, the sky clear and endless. Mara turned to Ellie, her eyes bright. "I want a future with you," she said, her voice steady. "Not just holidays. All of it." Ellie's breath caught. "Me too. Every messy, beautiful moment." They kissed, the ocean a witness to their promise. The holidays had tested them, but they'd emerged stronger, their love a beacon in the dark. The holidays were over, but Ellie and Mara carried their light forward. The apartment, once a battleground of secrets, was now a haven, filled with Mara's paintings and Ellie's sketches. Their lives entwined in every corner. They stood at the edge of something new, a future they were ready to build together. The first week of January was a whirlwind. Mara dove into her teaching, her confidence bolstered by the workshop's success. Ellie worked on a freelance project, a campaign for a local bookstore, her creativity sparked by Mara's presence. They fell into a rhythm. Mornings with coffee and quiet conversation, evenings with music and laughter. It was simple, but it felt like everything. Yet the world wasn't done testing them. Mara's parents called, their tone warmer but still cautious. Lynn invited them to a family dinner in February. A step forward, but her questions about Ellie's role in Mara's life hinted at lingering doubts. Mara handled it with grace, her voice steady as she reaffirmed her love for Ellie. Ellie listened, her heart swelling with pride and a flicker of fear. Would this fragile acceptance hold? They faced smaller battles too. At the community center, a parent questioned Mara's lifestyle, her words sharp and judgmental. Mara stood her ground, her voice calm but firm, and Ellie was there, a silent pillar of support. Afterward, Mara collapsed into Ellie's arms, her strength giving way to vulnerability. "I'm tired of fighting," she admitted, her voice muffled against Ellie's shoulder. Then rest, Ellie said, stroking her hair. I've got you. Mara's eyes met hers, filled with gratitude. I don't know what I did to deserve you. Ellie smiled. You existed. That's enough. Their love grew in the quiet moments, sharing a blanket on the balcony, reading poetry by the fire, dancing to old records in the living room. Mara painted a portrait of Ellie, capturing her in soft light, her eyes bright with hope. Ellie framed it, hanging it above the couch, a testament to their bond. But doubt lingered in Ellie's heart. She wondered if she was enough for Mara, if she could carry the weight of her struggles without breaking. One night, as they lay in bed, Ellie voiced her fear. What if I can't be what you need? Your family, your community, it's a lot. Mara turned to her, her eyes fierce. You're everything I need. You make me braver, Ellie. You make me want to fight. Ellie's throat tightened, and she kissed Mara, pouring her love into every touch. They fell asleep tangled together, the world outside forgotten. The trip to Boston loomed, a test of their resilience. Mara was nervous, her hands fidgeting as they packed. Ellie drove, her presence a steadying force. The Nguyen's home was warm, filled with the scent of pho and the chatter of relatives. Lin greeted them with a tentative smile, Duk with a nod. Min was there, his humor easing the tension. The dinner was a dance of careful words and cautious hope. Lin asked Ellie about her work, her questions less probing than before. Duk shared stories of his youth, his gruff voice softening. Mara held Ellie's hand under the table, her grip a lifeline. When a cousin asked about their relationship, Mara didn't flinch. Ellie's my partner, she said, her voice clear. The room paused, but Lin nodded, a small gesture of acceptance. Later, as they drove back to Portsmouth, Mara was quiet, her hand in Ellie's. That was better than I expected, she said finally. Not perfect, but better. Ellie squeezed her hand. We're getting there. Back home, they stood on the balcony, the city sparkling below. Mara turned to Ellie, her eyes bright. I want to keep building this with you. A life, a home, all of it. Ellie's heart soared. I'm in. Forever. They kissed, the stars above a witness to their promise. The holidays had been a crucible, but they'd emerged stronger. Their love a foundation for whatever came next. Spring crept into Portsmouth, softening the edges of winter. Ellie and Mara's love had weathered the holidays, emerging not unscathed but stronger. A tapestry woven with courage and care. Their apartment was a living thing now, filled with Mara's vibrant paintings and Ellie's scattered sketches. Their lives intertwined in every brushstroke and coffee stain. The weeks after Boston were a delicate dance. Mara's parents called regularly, their conversations growing warmer, though not without stumbles. Lin sent Mara a recipe for bonzio, a small gesture that felt like a bridge. Duk asked about Ellie's design work, his gruff curiosity a sign of progress. Min visited often, his support unwavering, and Ellie felt the Nguyen's becoming less a threat and more a family. Flawed, but trying. Mara's confidence grew. She led more workshops at the community center, her art a beacon for her students. Ellie was there for everyone, setting up easels, cheering her on. The whispers from colleagues faded, replaced by respect for Mara's talent. One parent, the one who'd questioned her before, approached her after a class, her tone softer. I was wrong, she said. You're good for these kids. Mara's eyes shone as she told Ellie, her pride infectious. Ellie's own work flourished, her designs catching the eye of local businesses. She and Mara dreamed of a shared studio, a space for their art to collide. They spent evenings sketching plans, their laughter filling the apartment. We're gonna need a bigger place, Ellie teased, kissing Mara's temple. Mara grinned. As long as it's ours. Their love was a quiet revolution, built in stolen moments and bold steps. They walked through Portsmouth hand in hand, no longer hiding. At the bookstore, they read poetry aloud, their voices weaving together. At the pier, their sanctuary, they made promises without words, their kisses a vow. But challenges remained. A letter from Mara's aunt in California arrived, questioning her choices. Mara read it, her face tight, then set it aside. "She doesn't get it," she said, her voice steady. "But that's okay. I know who I am now." Ellie pulled her close. "And I love who you are." The turning point came in April at the family dinner in Boston. The Nguyen's home was alive with relatives, the air thick with chatter and the scent of jasmine. Mara and Ellie arrived together, their hands linked, their love unapologetic. Lin greeted them with a hug, her embrace brief but real. Duke nodded, his eyes softer than before. Min grinned, whispering to Ellie, "You're officially family now." The dinner was loud, chaotic, and warm. Relatives asked about their relationship, some curious, some hesitant, but Mara answered with pride. "Ellie's my home," she said, and Ellie's heart swelled. Lin watched, her expression a mix of pride and struggle, but she didn't look away. Later, as they helped clean up, Lin pulled Mara aside. Ellie watched from the kitchen, her heart in her throat. Lin spoke softly, her hands gesturing, and Mara nodded, tears in her eyes. When they returned, Mara took Ellie's hand, her smile radiant. "She said she's proud of me," Mara whispered, "for being brave." Ellie kissed her, uncaring of the eyes around them. "You are." Back in Portsmouth, they stood on the pier one last time, the ocean stretching before them. The holidays felt like a lifetime ago, a crucible that had forged something unbreakable. Mara turned to Ellie, her eyes bright with certainty. "I want forever with you," she said. "Not just a moment, not just a season. All of it." Ellie's breath caught, her love a tidal wave. "Forever's already started," she said, pulling Mara close. They kissed, the world fading, their future a canvas waiting to be painted. The holidays had tested them. Family, fear, and the weight of truth. But they'd stayed together, their love a quiet triumph. In Mara's arms, Ellie had found her forever. And as the waves crashed below, she knew they'd face every season, every storm, side by side.